back to the Nueva Vida Group
ready?
podcast. As you know, we are a privately owned real estate advisory company that supports the high net worth and the ultra high net worth community on real estate acquisition, project management and development. And today we are joined by our friend, business partner, Raymond Iqbal, who is the founder of Phinesse Concept Creation. Welcome, Ray. You're a very hard man to pin down, so thank you very much for joining. It's great to have you on. Super excited for this. I think this will be one of our best episodes.
Thanks for inviting me.
But first, Ray, if you can just give us a summary of your, the journey that you've been on and how you got to, having the really successful business that you have now.
Thanks for having me once again, James and Jack, and it's a pleasure to be here. So it's been circa 20 years, and we begun our journey, myself and another, humble beginnings, you could say, by way of working for landlords and servicing their needs, wants for their properties. And that was a market that we felt was very, what's the word? Sort of easy to work in, but also it was, I couldn't see that there would be many down days due to the fact of properties that are rented constantly need work. So that was a market that we focused on, and we had some help along the way with that, Jack. And that was a really good starting point for us, because it was a mixed bag of work. It was larger projects, smaller projects, and anything in between. And so for a number of years, that was our, if you like, bread and butter. And then we had also some local clients in Surrey, because these South London properties were, and the portfolio was in sort of the Clapham areas and what have you, neighbouring towns. And then our client base in Surrey was great, but we didn't have a big enough foothold. And then once speaking to the team, which was quite a fundamental part of our decision making, because at the time the average tenure of the team was growing to be 4 to 5 years, and they started to say it would be nice to be able to work closer to home. And that was probably one of the driving sort of points to us focusing on a bigger Surrey market, or growing our sort of client base in Surrey, because when you've got a good team, they are your business to a point. And I thought, well, if they're not happy, or they may not be happy, they'll end up leaving. So for me to listen to them, and I started to focus on clients in Surrey and being a bit more aware of the market, having conversations with people, doing some networking. And then over a period of time, because it didn't happen overnight, it would probably be over the course of 2 or 3 years, we started to gather some momentum in Surrey and the local areas. And we were fortunate enough to work with some lovely clients and a couple of estate agents locally, and they opened some doors. And through probably the work that we were carrying out, that brought about a little bit of a buzz, and then people started to hear of us and they started to experience us, and then the recommendations came, and referrals and repeat clients. And then really within probably a space of, 5 years, we'd started to work more in Surrey, and we basically migrated back to Surrey, and we stopped working in London just because of the amount of business that was in sort of our area that we were having to service. So we didn't have
at this stage, Ray, were you
the need to go to London or the
now
way.
you were really dealing with private clients rather than landlords, weren't you? Or was that a bit further down the line? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, maybe I didn't make it clear that these were private residential houses that we were working in Surrey. And once I think that we started to work in some of the private estates, and then once we were working there, we tended to find there was a lot more referral work amongst the estate via, WhatsApp groups and things like that. Back then, it probably wasn't WhatsApp, it was more word of mouth. But then WhatsApp came along, and then obviously people started to share our details when someone would mention that they need a service. We did still maintain some landlord clients, but they were in a different ilk. These clients now were renting houses that were, $1 million plus, whereas before we were working in, nice houses in London, but some of them would have been apartments. So our clients grew, but our service offering grew as well, because the want and need for a residential client that wanted, whether it be 2, 3, or 10 different services, they didn't have the know-how or the time to manage a project. So we ended up, not by default, but we discussed it with them, and they said, how could we do it? Because we don't know what to do, or we don't know how to do it, or we don't know the suppliers, and how do we knit it all together? So all of a sudden we became organically project managers as well on our own project, but bringing in other services. And then over a period of time, if we fast forward, instead of outsourcing a lot of the services, because we typically were carrying out bathroom and kitchen install, decorating and things like that, we then had a bigger ask. So then we started to employ carpenters, plumbers, and people like that. And that really did help us contain the work and the program and the sort of service delivery, because people, especially high net worths, ultra high net worths, they like what they like. And if we sign contracts on a project and we have 24 weeks plus, whatever it might be, we have to deliver on time. And there's not really, unless there's an unforeseen, there's no flex in that. So we're accountable, and that's fine. We know where we need to be, as long as the brief is clear and the schedule is planned as it is, and there's no sort of veering off that.
Yeah, and you're going to probably blush for I say this, but you're sort of extremely
nice
well known for your level of detail and the effort and the work that your team and you put in. What is it that you sort of really focus on, and is that really core to sort of everything you do? Is the detail and how everything's finished and the quality of craftsmanship on site?
Yeah, I think, well, I personally am quite, I wouldn't say OCD, but I'm certainly particular. And having that kind of view and outlook on work and other things, it certainly helps to maintain a level. And having the team of the same mindset really does help. But this all stems from when we meet the client and they discuss their brief and a project. We have to interpret what they're asking, whether it be a look or a feel or a colour or something. We have to interpret it and basically go away, come back with our ideas and drawings or plans to that, and hopefully we are singing from the same hymn sheet. And then once we are at that place, then it's about working with the team, because the team is such a fundamental part of this. Yes, I do have a lot of input and obviously speaking to the client, but it's the team that needs to understand the brief and be aware of what we're trying to achieve, because sometimes just looking at a drawing doesn't give you that. You need to speak to the client and see how they're feeling and what they're saying, as opposed to not just the words of what they're hoping to experience by sitting in their kitchen and having their morning coffee with the sun, coming through that window at 8 o'clock. These are the factors that they may not think about when they say, oh, we want to put the doors here and the table there. But where does the sun rise? Do you want to be sitting in the shade, or would you like to be sitting in the sun? So, there's lots of conversation to be had before, as they sometimes say, you put a stake in the ground. It has to start with a lot of conversation, which I like. It's better to talk it up at the beginning and write War and Peace for your tenders and things like that, just so it's no information overload. So everybody is.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand. That's one of your major strengths, is like pulling the whole thing together, but keeping that client sort of centric to everything you're doing, and that rapport that you build with your clients is amazing to see. You've been a great help to us over the years in terms of helping us grow our project management business and understanding what we need to do and how it all works. So and to see it firsthand is amazing, really. And what drew you to, like, you know, the great estates, the sort of Wentworths, St George's Hill, you know, those sort of parts of the world? Is it, you know, aesthetically, does it fit well with your business, or are you personally drawn to that?
I I would probably say it helps being a
Yeah.
golfer being drawn to St George's Hill because it's got a fantastic golf course, as you well know. I would say that, of course, it is attractive and appealing to work in beautiful homes. And I do feel that working in those, you can really showcase what you can do, i.e., the finish and the detail. It can be lost on some other properties that it just doesn't translate as well. So when you're in these properties and you work with designers or not, maybe an architect, being able to really put, you know, your stamp on it. And, you know, there was a period of time where some years ago we were transforming a lot of properties with oak because it was popular and it was very, very lovely years ago. And people who've owned their homes and kept it, or bought houses and they've lived with it, they realised it looks really dated. It's changed over time with bleaching of the sun and wear and tear. And then there was a spate of a few years where lots of clients, when one had it and they saw the result from a transformation, everybody wanted it. And it was really fun. It was kind of like, it wasn't a niche service that we were doing, but we were just in this like sweet spot at the time, and everyone was having all the woodwork sprayed or refinished or what have you. And it was a really, like, that was
Yeah.
really nice because we were kind of probably known for that at the time. And there were probably others doing it as well, but only to the clients that we knew that they were talking about it amongst themselves and their friends and family. And then somebody would see our socials and say, oh my gosh, I've got something like that and I'd love that. So then that's what came about there. But that would, as I say, showcase what we could do really quite simply. Whereas some properties, it just doesn't show like it would.
Ray, you
in,
mentioned
these
obviously some of the work
beautiful
you've done on
homes in
socials. I mean, there's
private
quite a
estates.
few synergies between our business and your business with the high net worth clientele. How is it? Do you go about having these conversations about obviously showcasing some of the work that you've
Yeah.
done? Because obviously there's a fine line. You're at some some very serious people's personal homes and their personal effects flying around. How do you go about having those conversations? Because it's quite a tricky thing to have or do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the client would say, great, after the introductions, oh, I've seen this on your socials, and we would have a conversation and what have you. And if we get to the point of signing a contract to do the work, carry out the work on the project, it would be a conversation to say, as you have seen on our socials, we showcase our work. How would you feel about that? More often than not, the clients are happy to, but they may say, we are very private. I'm happy for you to shoot a room or a space, but please be aware that we would not like any family photos or personal effects visible. So yes, to ornaments, furniture and pictures and paintings like that, but not personal items that could, loop back to them. And that's the same in the front as well, with obviously vehicles and what have you. We would never do that. But then we do have clients say, absolutely not. We're really private and we'd rather you didn't. And so we don't. And that's just sometimes sad that they've got a beautiful home and you've worked on and you've carried out a transformation and you can't show it. But then equally, clients who we've had conversations with later on and we've said, we've actually carried this out, but I cannot show you it, or I don't have the pictures to show you because we were asked not to shoot it. They like that as well, even though they can't see it. They can appreciate it, and there's the integrity there from if a client asked you to carry this forward, this wish, and we do, and we don't say sure, and then 6 months later we start sharing photos that we did take. Not that we do, but if we did take and say to the client, well, we couldn't post it, but here you are, I still
And
think
we're
that's a
exactly the
breach
same in our
of
business. There's so many
trust.
things we'd love
So
to
we just don't.
showcase and things we've acquired
And
and things we've worked on, but that privacy is just so important.
Yeah.
I think I completely agree with you. Clients really appreciate that. It just shows you understand their needs and how they deserve to be treated and respected. And you know, a lot of the stuff you've done over the years is a lot of repeat business and repeat working with the same clients, isn't it? And that clearly is a testament to what you do, but it's also must be to do with that integrity that you just mentioned and that trust as well.
yeah, and if you think about how many projects and how many years that we've been working, if you were to view our social page, it doesn't translate because there's not so much, but that just indicates why. Because if you're working with a client for 3 months, 6 months or less, but there's no way of posting the work, then it doesn't. And we're not about just regurgitating old content and what have you, which it's okay to do, but we just don't like to do that. If there's not a new post, there's not a new post, and when there is, there'll be something, of note to be seen, and someone can, appreciate,
Yeah.
or
I think it
maybe
would be
take
great to hear
some
about your new venture that you've just launched
inspiration from.
in Formed, because I think this sounds so exciting. A great extension to your already sort of empire of business you've already got.
Yeah. Yes, so we created Formed. It's a bespoke joinery company, and it will service the residential client, an interior designer who has a project, architect, and the type of joinery that we'll be focusing on initially will be bespoke furniture such as media units, studies, wardrobes, and bars, and things along those lines. Later on down the line, kitchens may follow, but initially it's going to be that type of joinery, which can be in a multitude of finishes, whether it be a real wood product, a veneer, or an MFC or Egger style finish, and or it can be spray finished to your desired color, depending on what it is you're looking for. And again, the style can be anything you want, whether it be classic or contemporary. There's so much that can be done now, especially with the equipment available for creating and cutting. It's so intelligent that
Amazing.
it
I've been
really
lucky enough
is
to see some of the concepts.
nearly
I think it's a really
endless.
exciting add-on to
So
your business for sure.
yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with what we do. And if you go back to our conversation about managing projects, and the demand for service has grown, as in our offering, that was one side of the business that we we didn't offer. So that when we were having a project, we would bring in a third party to work with the client and us to offer the joinery side of things. And after a number of years, we thought, well, this is a side of the business that we could certainly cover if we are able to, because it's a big part of the business sometimes anyway. So over the past sort of 18 months, we've been in the background working on the structure and how we could do this, and had a long hard think about what we can do and how we can do it, and be not only offering the service but be priced correctly in the market. And that is where we ended up. And so come Christmas, really, we were ready to go live. So we've reached out and spoke to local businesses and partners of ours, and had a sort of soft launch to it, and had a few conversations, and it's been positive, really positive, so much so that we've just
That's
tendered
really
for
exciting, mate.
two
And
projects
sort of last question from
in the
me is
last
you
2
sort of
weeks.
mentioned,
Yeah.
managing budgets and costs and that sort of stuff. What sort of would you say is going on in the world of construction and material prices and things like that? Is it continuing to go up, or is it still competitive?
In terms of trade products, there has been a climb, an increase in the products, and I don't think that's ever going to stop, whether it be timber or other material. But in terms of other competitors, they've all said a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the market isn't particularly strong, things aren't particularly that buzzy. Whereas speaking to a couple of guys today, they said last year was awful and this year started incredibly different. It's like a tale of two worlds. They said it's so busy, whereas last year it was really, really concerning, they said. So I don't think everyone's feeling the same. I think some trade professionals and people that we know in the business, they are experiencing something different due to their network and their client base. And some people in bigger companies than ours, they are working on projects that are beyond 12 months. So they are consistently busy and they're not reliant on, a call from week to week or month to month because they've signed, on a large project. And we have been the same. When we're working on a large project or two at the same time, there'll be calls, and sometimes we can also accept new business and sometimes we can't. If our diaries are full and we're committed to clients, then we regrettably have to decline. And I would say that January, from a perspective of new inquiries, hasn't been as busy. But what's been interesting is, although the phone calls, the contact, the emails has not been thick and fast, the emails and the calls that we have had, these people are more credible in terms of they are actually in a position that they are looking to start. Whereas before, when things were a lot more busy in terms of inquiries, there were people just prospecting and they weren't in a position. So yes, there may be
I
a
think
big
that
downturn in
resonates.
inquiries, but the quality has gone up.
Yeah,
So I think that's a positive. So the people who are out there in our market who are looking to engage with companies like ours, they're more in a position
I think that
to be
resonates
making those
massively
hard
across our
decisions
business
about,
as well. But I
pushing
think it
ahead.
also comes with being more and more established. We've been around this is our 9th year. You've obviously been around for 20 years. The more established you get, the more sort of credible the engagement is, isn't it? People sort of really leaning on your experience and expertise.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I suppose if you've been in business a
Yeah.
long time, they know you're not here today, gone tomorrow. They know that if, I had a company that I'd been recommended to. It's a roofing company. It was probably 2 years ago, and very nice guys. They did a great job. But when they offered a warranty on the roof of 30 years, the gentleman was probably 50. And I thought, so fast forward 25 years, are you going to be around? Maybe, there's a succession plan with somebody else in the business, but I thought, how good is that warranty? Whereas, we offer a warranty on our business, and I'm going to be around for the next few years,
Absolutely.
or hopefully.
I think that's been really good, isn't it? It's really good just to get a deep dive into your business and just understand,
Yeah,
what you've done and what you do and the areas you work in. It's been brilliant.
I think as well, what's interesting when you speak to others, and I haven't of late been doing much networking because we've been so busy, but I've just begun to do a few more. And when speaking to others, even in the same space as we are, I don't think you can ever know too much. It's really good to be able to sponge up all the information on what people are doing, how they're doing it. Are we doing something that, or are we not doing something that we should be doing? So all of these all of these elements which you can add to your repertoire, I think are really important, especially with new products coming on the market that weren't familiar with before, but now we are, because there's been a huge demand in Marmarino and Venetian plaster, polished plaster, and all of these type of products that people are using in bathrooms now to move away from tiling. And we have to be on board with that, because there's a want for that. And we need to understand the product and how it works and the costs. So as of late, we've been carrying out some of those installs with those products, albeit we have to use certain professionals from that company, because they're the approved suppliers, which is fine, because they know what they're doing and they know exactly how to apply these products to guarantee, the warranties and what have you in the finish. But that in itself has been exciting, because working with new products, and this isn't this year, this has been years before, but when they've come to market, it's been great to be able to understand it and learn from it, and also mention it to clients that weren't aware of it, because some clients had no idea that you could have, micro cement floors, because they said, I don't like tiles because the grout lines, but I don't like wood and I don't want carpet. What's the alternative? And say, well, do you know about this? And then when they know about it, they say, oh my gosh, yeah, that's for us a game changer. Now we can have really something that we'd seen in a hotel in Portugal, but they didn't know what it was. Whereas now, with some education, they're aware of it. And one said client in Cobham, he wanted something, he was aware of it, but he said, I want this, can we do it? And it was, yes, you can have it. It'll work. And it was fantastic.
Brilliant, Ray. Look, I think that's a perfect way to end. I've really enjoyed that, Jack. I think you have as well, and I think our listeners will really enjoy that. We'll put Ray's socials, his website, and particularly his Instagram, so you guys can actually see some of the amazing projects and the work that they're doing. We'll put that in the links below. And any questions, let us know, and we'll get in touch. Thanks.